All right, welcome and Happy New Year, especially if I've not had the chance to see you on a Zoom meeting yet this year. I am Dr. Marianne East. I am the Artistic Director for Lifelong Learning and Research at Encore, and we are so excited to have you with us as we start up this new year of Masterclasses. And we are so thankful for AARP to be sponsoring these master classes and making them possible and helping to spread the word about our Encore University offerings that we have. We are going to spend the evening with Heather Fetrow and with Catherine Harsha and exploring Heather's story of her experience in many different facets of music as a singer, as a conductor, and learn a little bit more about her. So if you have not had the chance to work with Heather, you'll learn a little bit more about her and get to see a little behind the scenes with her this evening. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Catherine and Heather. Welcome, Heather.
Thank you, Marianne. It's great to be with you all. And thank you, Catherine, for hosting. This is so exciting. It's great to see familiar
Absolutely.
faces.
We're so excited to have you here. It's such a joy to get to know all of the conductors at Encore Creativity. I will introduce myself too. I realized I didn't remember to do that. My name is Catherine Harsha, and I am the Artistic Director for Programming at Encore Creativity. And part of my job is to get to work directly with all of our incredible conductors. And so I have this delightful opportunity to go see people working in their rehearsal spaces, to see how creatively they approach the scores that we're all working on together, and to see the particular genius that they bring into the room. And I kind of wish that all of our singers would have that opportunity right along with me, because I learned something in everyone's rehearsal spaces, and especially visiting Heather. There are so many components to learn a little bit more about, and get to know kind of how you do what you do and why you do it. So I am going to read a little bit of your bio, and then we're going to talk through more of it. But just to give you a little bit of a background on Heather, Heather studied conducting with the late Joseph Flumerfelt at Westminster Choir College, and was selected from an international pool of candidates to study with Carrington as conductor of a choral chamber ensemble in Sorrento, Italy. Italy, there's a theme here, international travel. Heather has conducted choirs and musically directed shows at Christ Church United Methodist and the Browning School, both in New York City, the Hun School of Princeton, the Madeira School in McLean, Virginia, the Mustard Seed School in Hoboken, New Jersey, and the Strathmore Children's Chorus Treble Chorus in Bethesda, Maryland. Heather has served as conductor for El Sistema based choral groups in Queens, New York, and has had a leadership role in development on the board of Kinara Ensemble, a professional choral ensemble now based in Atlanta, Georgia. Heather has sung with the Santa Fe Desert Chorale, Washington National Opera Chorus, Maryland Lyric Opera Chorus, and made her Carnegie Hall singing debut in An Evening of Opera. Choirs under Heather's leadership have performed with the National Philharmonic and in collaboration with Capitol Harmonia. Heather maintains an active private voice studio and sings regionally and internationally with opera companies, artist collectives, churches, and choral ensembles. Her debut album is distributed by Naxos worldwide. Heather, I feel like I know you as a person and a conductor and a member of Encore, and I read this bio and I'm blown away again at all of the incredible work that you do and all the incredible opportunities you've had already. Already. So, remind us which ensembles you currently conduct at Encore.
Thank you, Catherine, and thank you for reading my bio. I always forget what I did too. It's just like the product of getting old, right? It's like, oh, that's pretty cool. I did that thing. So anyways, yes, I conduct currently 2 rocks ensembles, and I see some of my rockers out there. Hello, rockers, from Montgomery County Rocks to Silver Spring Rocks as well. And both groups are growing every semester, which is really exciting to be a part of. And I also do the Alexandria Goodwin House chorale as well. So I get some chorale time every Friday morning over in Virginia, which is really, really fun and very fulfilling as well.
I love it. I see some people waving at you. So I want to just give everybody who wants to wave at you a moment to wave back because I know a bunch of your singers. Yeah, there they are. A bunch of your singers are in this space. Hello.
It's so good to see everybody.
So nice. So Heather, remind us when you came to Encore first.
Yeah, so I've been here for just 2 years. My 2-year anniversary has just passed.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
and what attracted you to Encore in the beginning?
I love the mission of Encore. It so resonates with my own experiences and my own journey. As a singer, that was one of the things I was thinking about when I was titling this workshop or this masterclass was the journey that every singer has throughout their life. And I thought Encore was a beautiful place to hear other people's stories and be a part of other people's journeys with singing. And I think that the unique opportunity that Encore gives singers to be in a group that's not auditioned, that is really about fun and about exploring different styles of music and getting to be in a community of singers is just incredible. And I think every singer needs a community. That's something that I've realized more and more as I've aged too. The artist within you needs community. He or she or they or what, they really do. Your artist needs a community to be a part of because without that, there's no reason for the art. And I think during COVID, a lot of us experienced that too. And I think that we're still kind of coming to that. I'll talk about some of the projects I did were related to some of that too. I feel so strongly that Encore offers this thing that's so needed in the world. So yeah, I was just excited also to try rocks. I'd never worked with a rocks choir before. I thought that was very intriguing. And yeah, I knew I'd get to work with a rock band, which was very exciting too. And some of my singers still were like, what? We get to work with a rock band? And it's like, yeah, we will. Yeah. And so the musicians are always so inspiring. And I love the idea of learning from the other conductors too, that you just talked about a little bit, Catherine. I thought, wow, like some superstar colleagues is always something that helps me continue to grow and kind of see where I can continue to offer things and grow and learn from my colleagues. I think that's so important as well.
I love that so much. And what you're talking about with the mission of Encore and the opportunity that all singers have, no auditions. And it's just such a joyful place to be in these Encore rehearsals. And your rehearsals in particular are the community building that I see happening in your rehearsals is just so wonderful. Your singers absolutely love you and they love singing together. And it's so obvious when you walk into a space, what a wonderful, warm community you build in those spaces. I love it. You're talking about rocks, getting to participate both in the rocks program and a chorale program. The rocks program really, when we're looking for conductors who are a good fit for our rock and roll program, we're not looking for people with experience directing a chorale of rock and rollers because they don't really exist, right? Like what we're doing is finding people who have a combination of choral music experience and a deep interest in the world of rock and roll music, but a rock and roll choir is just not a normal thing. So what have you found in the rock and roll sort of environment with these choirs? Has anything surprised you? Has anything been sort of more fun than you expected?
Yes, both. I think the most surprising thing has been the energy level around it. And I think that, again, you feel that every week, and I've felt that in the concerts too, that there's this amazing love of the music that comes from the singers and connections to those pieces in particular. That even just a rehearsal where the piece doesn't have to even sound that good, we're singing the music, and so that's the point of it, and again, it gets better and better the more that we do it in rehearsals, of course, but But it always just takes me back to the love of the music itself, which I think is sometimes we can lose sight of when we're trying to get ready for the concert. It's like, well, the passion and the love of that music is really the reason to be doing it. That's where it all starts and where it all ends too. If we love it, if we enjoy working on it, singing it, performing it, then the audience will as well.
Yeah. One of the things that's so cool, I think, about being in a Rocks concert or in a Rocks rehearsal is like in a chorale setting, we're taking music that maybe we remember from composers from hundreds of years ago, Bach or Mozart or Beethoven or Brahms, and and then maybe we're learning some music from newer composers and maybe some folk music, maybe some opera, maybe some musicals, and some things we recognize. But there's always going to be a component in a chorale set of repertoire of music that we just really don't know. But in rocks, we're going to know the vast majority of it, right? We're always going to push the agenda a little bit and make sure that our grandkids think we're cool as we sing some of their music too. But it's digging deep into these memories, right? Where we know that music and memory connect in ways that almost nothing else does. Rock's music really, really connects in a way, I think, with our singers, and it makes it that much more fun. You're talking about one of the things that I think is the coolest that you do in your rehearsals. So can you talk to us a little bit about the introduction that your singers give to the pieces, not only in concerts, but also in rehearsals? How did you come about that idea? And how is that, how are your members enjoying it? How is it playing out in your rehearsal space?
So this is a funny story, actually. I was thinking about how to not only engage the singers more, but actually delegate some things in rehearsal. So I felt like I didn't have to be on 100% of the time in rehearsal, because a lot of time as a conductor, it's helpful to have that kind of mental break and let somebody else shine, you know. And this is like a perfect example of, you know, we have all of this experience in the room, you know, people that know the music better than I do in some ways because they grew up with it. It's kind of, there's studies that show like music you listen to in your 20s and 30, you know, you're very young, like stays with you more and more. So that's not the case with me. I didn't hear, you know, Peter, Paul, and Mary do it. You know, I didn't hear the Beatles do it, but some of our singers in the room have done it. And so just to have that person come up and talk a little bit about the piece and maybe give their own perspective on it, and not just the memory. The memories are important, but also the historical information, the context of the piece. Did it relate to a movement or to a particular event that's historical or important? There's just lots of different ways to go with that information. And so I love seeing what singers do with that. Sometimes it's really profound what they say, and sometimes another singer has brought like different versions of the same song, you know, by different artists to play them in rehearsal. That was incredibly interesting because I think she structured it as I think it was Judith. I'm thinking back to Judith. Yeah, she structured it as like, guess who this artist is. You know, can you guess who this is? And so,
oh, interesting.
That
Yeah.
was super
Okay.
fun too. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, just giving the microphone around to other people, I think is really. But it did kind of start as a selfish thing, and too. I'll be honest. Like I just wanted to give up some of my rehearsal time too, and be like, I need a break. Like you all take the reins. You know, you guys do it. And I think actually I've discovered when I've worked with children too. You know, at various levels, and just empowering people in the choir to do that and to take ownership always pays a lot of dividends whenever I've been able to do it. Also in chorale, I did something similar this semester where we were getting to the point where they really needed a conductor, and when I'm at the piano, there's only so much I can do. So there were a couple members of the chorale who have had some experience conducting. One of them sang with the National Cathedral Society Chorus as a tenor, and so he was very skilled. So he, led them through the piece. They followed him, and I was able to cover the piano part more. And that again was incredible because then it's one of their own that they're sort of watching, and there's a little bit more ownership that way too. I really enjoyed that. If Robert's on this call, shout out to Robert too. He and Polly as well helped prepare one of the pieces. She actually kept the chorale going over the summer. They did a little summer concert without me because I'm not obviously on staff at Encore over the summer, and they did their own concert, GHA Chorale. So I love empowering the singers. It really always, like you were saying, feeds that sense of community too.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
So more of that. Yeah. I need to do even more, Catherine. Thank you for reminding me.
Well, I have to tell you, as I'm talking with other, especially rocks conductors, they all know what Heather, the introductions that Heather has set up in her rehearsals, and many of them are going to be emulating that in upcoming semesters, because I think for me, what it was so interesting about it is I know the research that I can do about a rock and roll piece, and I know what it meant for me in my life. But to hear so many people in the room agreeing on the sort of experience that and stage of life that they were in as this piece was becoming popular, and the memories that they have around it sort of overlapped a little bit. I remember part of that conversation when I was in your rehearsal about the piece that was being introduced, and I just thought it was such a wonderful way to pool the collective memories around a piece of music before digging in and learning. The details of it are good, but it's the memory of it and all of the things that those memories conjure up that make it even more fun to be able to sing that repertoire. So well done, Heather. Well done. There are going to be a bunch of us imitating you
Well,
in the
thanks.
semester.
I just appreciate the opportunity, honestly, Catherine. You're so good at picking the music, so it's just easy from there. So thank you.
Absolutely. Jeff Docken and I get to work together on the rock and roll repertoire, which makes it much better. His knowledge of rocks is exhaustive and delightful. So one of the things that our singers always ask for is warm-ups, right? So talk to us about, how do I warm up at home? What are the important components of warming up? So when you do warm-ups in your rehearsals, Heather, what do you consider to be the important components? If you were to give the singers in this room 3 minutes of wisdom around the core components of a warm-up, what would you say to them?
Yes, so it's pretty basic. Again, I think getting back to basics is what I try to encourage my singers to do. So we're going to talk about posture, right? And all the things that go into posture. First of all, relaxation, right? Of all the key muscles as a singer. A lot of our singers, are very savvy now, and you know where your key muscles are. Like, do you really get tight shoulders here? You can spend time doing that, right? Do you need to do a neck thing? Do you need to go stretch all the way over, or is that maybe not the thing to do, right? We sometimes massage the jaw, right? To kind of relax and really, release some of those muscles too, so that we're not filled with tension when we go to sing. So some body things to make sure your posture is aligned as best your body can and as best your body can feel. And then from there we go into breathing. So posture into breathing, and breathing, and a lot of times we start just by humming pitches, and that helps kind of feel the sense of connection between the breath and the tone. And then we'll do some other too, deep breaths and things like that. There's like a million breath exercises, so it's not so specific that one has to do like this exercise or that exercise, but just something that brings you in contact with how the breath feels and extending the breath, both the inhalation and the exhalation. Those are really important to kind of feel how am I taking the air in, how am I sustaining that breath, and how am I exhaling the air. So those are the places to start. And if you have no other time to do anything else, those are the two things to do, are posture and breath, because from there it's just easy and dependent on your particular voice. I love doing what are called slide glides too. Kind of a cool term. This is from, I think it's Richard Miller out of Oberlin. He has a great book with slide glides. So things like whoo or whoop or boom, wee, ha, anything that kind of gets your voice moving from, in general, the head voice, to make sure it's accessing that, but then, taking that slide glide down into the chest to ooh, again, the ideal is that there's not a lot of break there in the sound. So if there are breaks, that's the place where you can kind of come back to, again, how's my posture? How's my breathing? Am I able to keep my sound going? And if not, some days it's just, that's just where your voice is, and that's okay. Honestly, it's just a good way to touch base with your voice. I talked a little bit about humming too. I think humming is really important. Some sounds, some singers like our NG as well. Kind of helps you feel the voice. Ooh, different vowels, for different singers too. From there are really helpful. So if I like the word sing, for example, you can try this at home. Everybody just go like sing, and you can kind of feel how that engages and really vibrates up there. Because as we're trying to do when we're warming up voice, we're just trying to get all the vibrations going however we can. and vowels. My singers know we love talking about vowels too. And then we want to have fun with the warm-up, right? So I always try to end with something that's just fun and silly, like hello, I love you, goodbye is one of the favorites of my groups, yeah? And that is an arpeggio, and I think arpeggios are incredibly helpful too. So once you've got the voice going, doing something that's a little more dynamic like that, up and down. I also like just 3-note warm-ups. My choirs know, like, just very basic, and open to a vowel, ah, etc. Change up the vowel, you. You can, alternate vowels too. But just again, you're wanting both the voice to feel legato between notes, but then also be able to leap up and down in those leaps and jumps more and more. Those are two kind of critical skills, I feel, for singers, that if they can kind of master the notes right next to each other, and also the comfort with leaping a little bit, they're ready to sing then, in so many ways. So I think that was a little more than 3 minutes, but I tried to keep it close.
I think it was perfect. I think it was perfect. I saw some people taking notes over there, which is exactly, like part of what we love being able to do at Encore is learning ever more from the experts in the field. And I want to just point out what an expert in the field you are. Remind us what your summer project included this last summer. For example, did you perform anywhere fun?
Thanks, Catherine. I did, actually. So I got to go to a place I'd never been before, which was the Netherlands. Anybody been to the Netherlands here? I would be curious. You could put in the chat if you have, lots of you, yeah? So you know how beautiful it is, first of all, there, and how much they love music. So I was in the southern part of the Netherlands, the city of Maastricht, which is very near the border of Belgium. So it was incredibly cool. I was in Germany, I was in Belgium, I was in the Netherlands, right in that kind of pocket. I even got to go to Prague for another audition as part of that. So it was a very, very special summer. And even more special was my husband was able to go too. He and I very rarely get to sing with one another. He's a singer too. And we did an opera scene together there as part of a festival. And that was incredible. And I got to sing for some agents in Europe as well and get some feedback on my singing, which again is just so valuable no matter what stage you're at, just to have somebody else say, oh, we like how that sounds, or maybe sing this instead, It's just so important for singers, again, to have community. And I like to explore more opportunities to sing over there because my husband is British, and so he has quite a network of places that he likes to sing over there. So I'm trying to build up some more opportunities for both of us to sing over there when I can. So it was personal as well as professional joy for me.
Isn't it so cool? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I know that those of you who get to be in rehearsal with Heather know how amazing she is. But I just think what's so delightful is we tend to get lulled into like, yep, Heather Fetrow, she works with 3 of our groups. She does an amazing job. She's cool. But and then you unpack how very cool our conductors are, and it just is a delight every single time. When I go traveling in the summer, it's just because I want to see a fun place. When you go traveling, it's because you're starring in opera scenes with your husband and you're both singing as you do. As you do, right, Marianne? That's how our summers look too. Yeah, totally. Heather, that's so cool. What an incredible opportunity. I love that. As we chat and enjoy this time together, Dr. Marianne East, Heather Fetrow, and I, 3 of your, female leaders at Encore Creativity, it strikes me that there should maybe be a class about women in music or something. Don't you think?
I have been thinking about that.
Yeah, tell us about your upcoming course that you'll be teaching at Encore.
So I was so excited when Marianne put out the call for a course. She was like, anybody want to do this course? We have one opening. I was like, I do, please. I wanted to teach this course for a long time, actually. It was back in 2018 that I released my album, that you mentioned, and it's distributed worldwide, and it's very exciting. Got a couple reviews actually in Opera News and New Journal of Music and things like that, so it's a pretty big deal. But I always knew it could be a class as well. I knew that I had done so much research into various women composers that I included on the album. The name of the album is Voices of Women from Unknown to Renowned, and it's not all women composers, but it's women composers alongside their male counterparts. Like in my ideal world, every concert program is like half and half, right? I mean, we're not there yet, right? But we're striving for some of that equity still, and I think that was part of the vision. I mean, I know it was. I was part of the Women's March as well, right around that time in DC. Some of my activist friends out there, I know you all are out doing a lot of that right now, and thank you for that, because that really did inspire me. I thought, well, there's so many albums, and it's all the same composers. Like there are women composers out there. So I got really inspired, and I'm going to teach this course, and we're going to feature a women composer every single week, at least one. Actually, I'm still kind of working out who exactly it will be. But I'll talk a little bit about their music, so you'll get a chance to hear some of the music in the class, and then I'll talk a little bit more about some of their struggles, actually. And being a woman has always brought struggles for anybody that wants to be involved in, first of all, a very public art form, which music making has been. And the other thing that's so interesting to me is how the people around their lives kind of react to the fact that, oh, they are writing music, like Fanny Mendelssohn's, brother Felix, right? Like her dad was like, oh, well, this can be Felix's job, but like, this is just an ornament for you. Like, you're just going to stay home and do this, And so how she managed to like rise up against that and still create music, it really inspires me, and I think it will be inspiring for anybody that takes the course and anybody that's been discouraged from doing something. We've all been there, right? I have this thing I want to do, but maybe you've not been able to do it. I get really inspired by the women who are able to figure out how to do it, and their music's just great, and I think you'll hear some really unique things, and my goal is for their music to be as familiar to you by the end of the class as Bach or Beethoven or Brahms is, because their sound is just as distinctive as the male composers we're a little bit more familiar with.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I'm so excited about this class, and because some of our questions are already coming in about the class, I want to take a minute to pause and just ask you some of the questions that have come into the chat. So Peter's asking, how do you feel about warming up by doing arpeggios, moving up a half step as you do them?
Yep, that's the thing. That's an absolutely great way to build the voice. That's like, hello, I love you, goodbye, or I love to sing. All of those warm-ups are so helpful, or even a vowel, whatever you do. I love an arpeggio, and I think the thing that's really helpful about them is the momentum, right? Like how fast you're using the voice to get up into those top notes, so there's not a lot of strain to it. It's a really good warm-up. Yep.
Love it. Our version of that in my rehearsals is How Blue Is My Shoe.
How blue is my shoe. I like that one too, Catherine. That's so cute.
I'll walk in and people are like, oh, very blue. Right?
Uh-huh.
Sometimes I'll just say, yeah, today's answer is very, or today's answer is not at all. And people who are not used to what we're doing are like, what is happening here? Yeah, arpeggios for the win. Michael B says, Heather, did you sing in Germany?
Nope, I would love to, though. That's definitely on my bucket list. And I haven't sung in Vienna, but I've been to Vienna. I would love to. Mike, thanks for encouraging me. Yep, those are
I
on
love
my
it.
list. Yep.
Next on the list. Let's get it on there. I love it. So Linda is asking, are you involved with the Boulanger initiative at all, which is around women composers? Yeah. So talk about this a little bit.
Yeah, they're great. I mean, I'm not personally involved with them, but I have had them when I was teaching at the Madeira School. I had them into my classroom where they introduced a lot of wonderful women composers to my high school students, and I know I'm just really inspired by them. They have a lot of stuff going on. You can see, even online, if any of you are on the social media things, they'll often post about women composers, and they have several concerts, I believe at Strathmore. They do some, so I highly recommend what they do. I do.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, MC Marie is asking, are you covering Amy Beach or Clara Schumann?
Amy Beach will definitely be on there. Amy Beach is one of my favorites. I'm going to consider Clara Schumann for sure, too. She's another wonderful one. But Amy Beach, definitely, for sure.
Awesome. I'm already excited about this class, so I can't wait to drop in.
Come anytime.
Allison is saying, my son produced a documentary on Pauline Oliveras,
I don't know
who
this.
once produced a video. There are no lady composers.
Fascinating. I have to look
I
into this.
know. Okay, we're learning something here. Allison, I think we might need more information on this. There are no lady composers. I'm so intrigued. We know historically that quite a few compositions were written under pseudonym, right? Because if you were a female composer, you weren't going to get attention. Interestingly, not about female and male, but about writing under pseudonyms. Also, we now know many years later that quite a few pieces were written and then they put like Mozart on as the composer just to get the music being played, knowing that they would never get credit for it, which I found to be just odd and intriguing, but also understandable, right? If you just want your music being performed, you're going to put the name of a famous composer on it. This is a question, Heather, any update on your Penelope project you can share? So we weren't there in the conversation yet, but let's go there. What is the Penelope project and
So
what dates can you share?
I'd love to. So, hey, Angie, it's so good to see your name pop up there. Angie was always so supportive over at Silver Spring, asking about this and sharing other things going on. And it was actually a film, an independent film. This was my COVID project. I was sitting around like, I think this art song could be a film. And this art song I'd worked on is called Penelope, and it's by a composer named Cecilia Livingston, who I think you'll love her music, any of it that you can find. This piece in particular is really interesting because it's several different vocal styles and musical styles in one. It's got classical, it's got jazz, it's got pop, it's got minimalist music, which if you know what that is sort of just, bare bones here and there, not a lot going on musically, but still really important things. And I had not sung a lot of jazz before and actually recorded this piece twice. And the first time I did it more classically, and the second time I did it more kind of jazz style. I will probably do it a third time and do it even more jazz style, actually, if I ever had the opportunity to do it, because again, as artists, we learn and we pick up things, the older that we get and the more influences I've had, an interest in jazz too. I think it would be cool to delve into that even more. So I'm lucky again because I have a sister who is a production designer. She works for a show called FBI, actually, on TV, if anybody's seen it. She's one of their art designers, and she blows a lot of things up on set. That's what she talks about in that show. So I was like, hey, Katie, also during COVID, there wasn't a lot going on in Hollywood and the movies and TV and stuff. I'm like, you want to do a film with me, an independent film? She's like, sure, why not? There's nothing else going on. And so we found a director who's actually done some assistant directing with the Washington National Opera as well. And she and Katie had worked together at Carnegie Mellon. So it was one of these sort of, all women team, right? Like, here we go. And that became very clear to me. My pianist was a woman. We did have one sound engineer that was a man, but it's okay. We can have a bit of diversity, as we say. But I did really enjoy this opportunity. And again, if you've ever been a woman and have had that opportunity to just work with all women as opposed to, all men or mostly men, it can be a different experience. And I was really happy to lean into that with this project. And it had 2 premieres up in New York City, which was really exciting. And we actually did a screening here in the North Bethesda area that was really helpful as well. I think some of you tried to come to it, but the date got wrong or something. So thank you if you tried to come. That was a little bit of a snafu, as happens, right? Like with independent projects. But it was a really, really wonderful learning experience, being able to say that I'd produced a film with a team of women artists. And I don't profess to wanting to produce another film tomorrow. It's definitely a lot of work. But it is something that I actually would love to be a series. The film got some really good feedback in New York. Those of you who've been following the story, it was the theme. They did a whole living gallery around the film. So it inspired dancers and live poetry and visual art, people drawing Penelope, and I don't know if any of you know the story of Penelope, but the Odyssey is going to be coming out as a major blockbuster again next summer, starring Matt Damon. So we'll see one portrayal of her. She's Odysseus's wife, basically, who waits 20 years for him to return to her. And so it's taking a look again at a woman just waiting, kind of stuck, and what that has felt like through the ages for women to have that feeling of less agency, and how does one cope with that without their man around, and so it's really interesting looking at it as through a modern lens, set in the modern time period. And again, a lot of that I didn't come up with. I hope this is not like I came up with all this. There was a director, right? There was like there was an actual videographer person who made it look so cool, but it is available to watch on my website now. So if you want to go to heatherfetrow.com, it's just like 8 minutes long. But man, that 8 minutes, that took about 4 years. So again, if you've ever done film or thought about doing independent film, it's just a lot, but it's worth it, because the point of it was to get the piece heard by more people. I really wanted to spread Cecilia Livingston's music more, and I thought the topic was so perfect for COVID, because it's all about loneliness and waiting and how we all felt so isolated away from one another. So it was just very timely, I felt, to as a project for a lot of people to be reflecting on what it's like to be left behind or feel like you're not connected with the people that you love. So yeah.
So if people wanted to go watch this movie, remind us again where they can go.
Oh yeah, heatherfetrow.com. It's on my film and video page.
Nice. Nice. That's so cool. Congratulations. I think that if figuring out how to use our time during COVID and finding creative outlets for the work that we want to be doing was no small task. And so to have created an entire film over those long seasons is incredibly well done. I'm so impressed. So tell us also about the debut album. Was that connected to the film? Was that something separate?
So they are separate projects, but again, they're still inspired by the same idea of having more women's voices heard, basically. So the women composer idea, and again, working with an all-women team. So yes, they were separate, separate ventures, but all under this sort of mission I've found for myself. I was talking about how I love Encore's mission, and that resonates with me because I think it largely resonates with my mission as an artist, which is to inspire change, in others and in society, basically. I mean, if there were to be so lofty a goal, right? But you have to start with one person or two people here and there. And I think what all artists, whether you know it or not, all of you on this call, being your own artist yourself, I do think there can be something, that inspires you to want to get out there and change something, or just have your voice heard, have your expression, your unique expression heard. And that's such a human thing that is important. And so yes, I think that going back to why the projects are connected is just to have more women's voices heard. We know that historically it's been challenging, and so I really enjoy just celebrating those voices. I really do.
Love it. I love it. I love it. So I want to talk a little bit more about Encore for a little bit, and your experience and your work at Encore, and especially as related to our singers. So as you think about all of the ways that you've been engaged in the arts, in performing overseas, in creating, in teaching, right? Can I ask, how many students do you have in your private studio?
I have about 15 right now.
15. That's incredible.
Hi, Joan. Joan is on this call, by the way. She's one of my private students.
Love it. Love it. Love it. As you think about all of the ways that you've been able to engage in the arts, what wisdom do you have for our singers around tips for practicing, tips for rehearsing, tips for performing, like tapping into what is unique about each of us and bringing that to a performance? What wisdom do you have around any of that as a professional musician?
So it's a great question, Catherine. I think there are, again, things that are a little bit different for each singer, but in general, I like the idea of the practice session being really about your voice, about my voice. Yeah, when you practice, it's about your instrument, and you know your voice better than anyone else does. You've lived with your voice, and I always try to encourage my singers to remember that, and maybe it's painful, but I recommend recording yourself sometimes. Record your practice session. You will learn so much by listening back to it, right, Joan? Yeah, the people that I make, just and have fun. Try different music when you're practicing. Maybe you have your encore music that you're practicing, right? But try something else. If you're doing a Neil Diamond song, try singing some other Neil Diamond. Just to change it up and explore more of your voice. I think is really important to not get kind of bogged down. I got to sound perfect on this piece. Sometimes there's better information for you somewhere else if you practice something else, So I would say try not to limit yourself to just practicing the stuff you're assigned. Try something different. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work, right? Then and you've learned. So I think that's really fun. And I think it's important to try to enhance your practice experience too. Just by appropriately challenging yourself. So, again, sometimes it's challenging enough to just learn the music. Yeah, and I get that. But maybe it's more fun to take a voice lesson on it from somebody. Or maybe you should, listen to a recording as well along with your practice session. You could be inspired by practicing with somebody else. I know some singers have, grouped up with other people to practice, because then again you hear where other people are and you feel like less alone too that way. Practice buddies can be good. And I just like to spend time reading through the score too, and just again, try to figure out what all those little markings are. Maybe it doesn't feel like singing practice, but it's still helping your voice, because when you know how loud or how soft something needs to be, you're going to practice it differently, right? You're going to approach that a little bit differently from your technical standpoint. And the other thing that's just fun is to avoid perfectionism in practice. If you start feeling that perfectionist bug, jump in, just try to enjoy it. And if you aren't enjoying it, come back to it later. Again, some things you can do to keep it fresh for yourself, or you can have a vocal model. So you listen to that original recording or listen to somebody else. I mean, that's the cool thing about YouTube and Spotify and Apple Music, all these things now. You can go listen to somebody, they don't have to be good, but they've put it out there on YouTube for you, and you can go listen and learn from it. That's incredibly fun too, because there's always something to learn. You can get into other arts too. I was working on a jazz song and I was like, hey, I think I need to go swing dancing because I need to feel that rhythm in my body. And so, take a dance class or go to the theater, go to a visual arts exhibit, make that your practice. Sometimes too, that can be more valuable than spending so much time trying to sound perfect on a piece, because again, you're moving more into the experience of the art forms that it's from. And I'll talk a little bit more about this at the end if we have time, but I have some imagery work that I like to involve in my practice too, that again takes it away from just technically what's happening and sometimes opens up some more sensory things that are available to me as a singer. The other thing that's important, last thing for practicing, is to have realistic expectations. So these are, again, so important, I've found in my life, because it's not a realistic expectation to be able to sing the whole piece through a lot of times, right? The first time, that's not realistic. And the reason for that is just because even though we know how the song goes, a lot of times our voice doesn't know how the song goes, right? So our voice needs to learn. And sometimes people's brains get ahead of their voice. I have that experience sometimes myself. I know how I want this to sound, but my voice doesn't know it yet. So again, the idea of just okay, for these 8 measures, I'm going to practice with my posture and my breath and really enjoy singing. That'll get you a lot further than trying to get all the way through the piece and beating yourself up for an hour. And the other thing that's important about that, I know, is just taking your voice where it is in the day. My 8:30 on a Sunday morning voice is very different from my I'm ready to record an album voice, on a Saturday afternoon. So you might find that in your practice too. 11 a.m. is a great time for me. Or like, I hate singing at 11 a.m. I have to sing afternoon. That's the only time that's good for me, Or I have to sing in the morning. I get too tired in the afternoon. Everybody's really different in this respect. So play around with the best timing for your practice, and then change it up on yourself too, because the world is not perfect. You will never be able to like manufacture the perfect time for your voice. So again, that's the challenge. A lot of times play to your comfort zone, but then challenge yourself and sing at 9 o'clock at night. See what happens, right? Because that's sometimes when your concerts are going to be. When I sang in Greece, I was singing at like 12:30 in the morning. We were still doing the opera, and I'd never done that before in my life, and that was very much a learning experience. My voice hung in there, thank goodness. But yeah, so just sharing, it's a lot of fun to kind of see when is a good time for you vocally. So those are my practice tips.
I love that so much, and thinking about singing when it's ideal for your voice, and then also recognizing that we rarely get to perform when it's actually ideal for our own specific body and voice. There was a program I knew of that had their students. It was for students, and they were training them to be good at auditions, right? Because performing is one skill, but being good at auditions is a whole other skill. Thank goodness we don't have auditions at Encore. But what they did with these students is they said, like, please show up for your mock audition on Tuesday at 5 p.m. or wherever they were supposed to be at such and such a room. And part of the training was that the students would show up to that room whenever they showed up in time for their audition, to a sign that said your audition has been moved to cross campus, right? Like, so the students, by definition of the exercise, were sprinting with their instrument way across the campus to arrive at their audition, and if they had arrived really, really early, they still maybe had time. If they had arrived just in the nick of time, now they were late to their audition, and they were exhausted, and they hadn't warmed up, and they still had to perform their very best. And I remember even just hearing about that and thinking, gosh, what wisdom right there, right? That we want to prepare ourselves to perform as perfectly and in the best environment as possible. But how many times have we shown up had to carry too many things, or the weather is wrong, or whatever, or we didn't get to eat, or we ate and now we're tired, or whatever, and we're not at our very best, and we still want to sing or perform at our very best. I love that. Absolutely. So we got a little update on the documentary that was produced, the documentary called There Are No Lady Composers. And the update is Pauline, who was the feature of this documentary, composed very contemporary music and just wanted to be referred to as a composer, as opposed to a lady composer, right? So I love that. I would love to hear more of it. Marie says the Emily Wilson translations of the Iliad and Odyssey are quite good. Oh, good to know. It has been far too many decades since I've read those, I hate to admit. Joan says Heather has a huge repertoire of warm-up exercises. They are as much fun as doing the singing. Also, Heather is so supportive and encouraging of me as a student. I love that. Our goal is not to advertise for you as a teacher, but just out of curiosity, like, do you teach in person? Do you teach online? Like, how do you do this?
Yeah, I do both. I do teach in person out of my home studio, and then I do have some Zoom availability as well. I have a student in Spain right now, which is very hard to schedule sometimes because, it's like already the afternoon here when it's late morning, or afternoon there when it's late morning here. So, but I really enjoy the private teaching as well. So I'm glad it's good for you, Joan. It's good.
Talk about trying to find ideal times for both of you.
Yep.
With a 6 hours, 7-hour time zone. Francie says on January 24th, Neil Diamond will celebrate his 85th birthday. I think all of Encore should call and sing him happy birthday, don't you? Big old Zoom call, we'll all unmute at the same time. I think that is exactly how he wants to celebrate his birthday. That is awesome. I didn't know that. How cool. Beth says, definitely yes on dancing to the music, such as swing dancing. Yeah. I danced at Glen Echo for years. Swing is in my body at a cellular level. Oh my gosh, Beth, I love that so much. There's so much to be said for that cross
Yes.
cross genre arts work, I think it's so important and I think it's so valuable. Um, if you've got the rhythm for dance, right, you can do almost anything. I love it. Heather taught us how to be expressive, even in warm-up exercises. Wait, what? Expression even in warm-up exercises, Heather? How is that a possibility?
My singers, I don't know. They just do it. I just give it out to them. They just, I don't know. I mean, this is again something I've been so lucky to have good teachers over the year. And I had a teacher in New York. He wouldn't let me sing a note without it being like motivated by an expression. He'd be like, no, no, no. Like we don't do that type of warm up here. We're going to sing with meaning from the beginning. And I just found it so like true, because if you don't practice that skill, there's no guarantee it will ever happen in a performance, like, because again, we try so hard as conductors to encourage that, but it's ultimately, I always tell my singers, it's not up to us. Like, it's really not. The concert, like, you guys are the stars, like, you're the ones that do it. I mean, they can see my back, and if I do my hair nice, like, that's all I worry about, expression from there. Maybe my face moves around, in a way that inspired, I don't know. But I honestly, I think it's really fun. It's more fun too. I remember like complaining about that a little bit with my voice coach in New York and be like, actually, this is more fun to practice this way because again, it connects to some expression in the piece and in the music. And it's so interesting too. I always like to share this story. He used to say it doesn't have to be an appropriate emotion either. You can choose one that has nothing to do with the song and it will still work because you're choosing an expression. So, because we don't know when you choose an expression, like I'm going to sing angry, we can't tell if you're singing angry or not, like 9 times out of 10. I mean, maybe if your face really shows it, but 9 times out of 10, we just see that you're invested in the expression of the music. So choose something inappropriate. It's more fun, again, too, honestly, to do this.
Expression, even if it's inappropriate expression. I love that. To your point about the fact that at the end of the day in a performance and even to some extent in rehearsals, it's not really about what we do. It's very, very much about what our singers do. I say the same thing to my singers repeatedly on the podium. All I can do is lead and guide as much as I can. Like maybe indeed I am in charge of when we begin, but after that, we just hope that we've all done our homework and we're all on the same page about what we're doing. It is, we are so lucky to get to work with singers who are so passionate about the work that they're doing, who are so invested in the learning process, right? And share the same goals. Absolutely. I love it.
I forgot to get to the rehearsals, Catherine. Can I come back to tips for rehearsals? Because that was just practice. I love that you took us into rehearsals and performances, yeah? So thank you for already getting there, but I did want to talk about rehearsals for a minute too, because rehearsals are really different from when you're all by yourself. Agreed? Mm-hmm. This is one of the things my singers talk to me about, like I had it at home, but I don't have it here. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's a whole thing. Yeah, like that's normal. Like, don't worry. we'll talk about that. So I just always encourage singers to use the support system that you have in rehearsal. Use the conductor. Use this as a resource. Use the other singers. You're really good at this, Catherine, in your rehearsals, I know, getting them to communicate with one another and support one another in that process, because none of us are an island. And it can feel that way sometimes when you're trying to struggle to learn the music, but it's absolutely not true. You might learn your part by listening to the tenors sing their part for some weird reason, because your part fits with their part there, So it's just, again, remembering that we're all in it together. And don't be afraid to ask. Again, when it's appropriate in the time frame, like I always say too, but do, and feel out the room. Feel out, maybe it's a good time for a question. And there's no dumb questions because your question always sets off somebody else thinking. And then the idea of like knowing your music before you get into rehearsal is such a tricky one, right? Because we're all at different levels. But I always think even if it's just speaking the words, like that's something you can do at home, right? Just speak through the words, even if it's not in rhythm. Speak the words, Start there. Listen to this song. Practice. I always say practice something 7 times too. Like if you're trying to prepare it for rehearsal, okay, you had it once at home. That is not going to stay at all in rehearsal. It's just not going to work. You have to have it 7 times perfectly. And that's something that I've learned from teachers too. That's like just a magic thing. And anytime you miss something in a rehearsal, if you miss it more than once, I always say mark it or highlight it. It's okay to miss it once because you're just learning it. But like, again, you don't have to practice the whole piece then. Just go through at home and do what you highlighted or just do what you circled, because that's more efficient practice than you run the piece and you make the same mistake again, right? Or something like that. We've all been there, right? Why am I making that mistake? Well, because you're practicing that mistake, And so that's how it gets reinforced. So been there, right? We've all been there. And then I always like to encourage singers to think about what they do before and after the rehearsal too, because I think it can make a difference in your experience of the rehearsal. Again, this is the ideal world, right, folks? This is not the realistic world for a lot of us. But in an ideal world, are you running there late from something else? Can you give yourself a little more downtime before and after the rehearsal, just so you're able to enjoy it more and you're able to kind of give yourself like a post-mortem and be like, oh, that one piece went really well, but gosh, I need to look at this piece, even if it's 2 minutes, where you're kind of like, oh, before you have to run off and pick up somebody or, get the groceries or 2 minutes. We all have 2 minutes, I feel like. In this digital age, we feel like we don't, but we do. And so just structuring your day around your rehearsal can be helpful. And the other thing is, like, I'm all for personal goals for the rehearsal, like the conductor always has musical goals for you, but like, what's your goal for rehearsal? Do you want to practice singing full out? Do you want to maybe mark a little bit so you're just getting the notes kind of in your voice slowly? Do you want to make sure you ask a question? Like, that could be your goal for a rehearsal. There's lots of personal goals you might have out there. But just something, again, maybe it's your goal is connecting with somebody in the room, like you've never met before. It can be community-based. It doesn't have to be music-based. And think about how you can pace yourself through rehearsal too. Like, again, I try to send out the list of the music that we're going to do. Is it 3 pieces or is it 5 pieces today? So again, thinking about like, oh gosh, I have to make sure I eat a good lunch because I'm going to go through half the program today or something like that, versus, oh, we're just doing a couple, 2 or 3 pieces, a little lighter rehearsal. That's a big difference. And then is there a piece you can take a little break on too? Maybe if it's a really high piece or something for you, maybe you're just marking that one and kind of getting used to it. You don't have to sing it full out all the time. That can be really more fun, again, because it helps your confidence. Oh, I'm just going to sing it lightly, and then next time I'll sing it more full out. Kind of like dancers, again, like as you're learning a step as a dancer, right? You don't do it full out the first time. I mean, I'm not a dancer, but I hear like that's the case, And so for a singer too, you don't have to do it full out the first time. Maybe you're just making sure you have the notes and rhythms. I always try to encourage that as part of the process, but if I forget, it's a permission granted any time in the rehearsal process to do that, honestly. And like, what if, I always think of this question too, like, what if you get annoyed or tired during rehearsal? Like, what if things are not going well? Again, like, there's a couple things you can do. Like, first of all, you can just rest. Like, go get a drink of water. You can take a mental vacation too, which I love to share this, but I have had to sit through a few meetings in my time that I'm not that invested in. I don't know if any of you have been there too, yeah? But I'm like, I don't know if I need to listen to this or not right now. Like, if there's a point like that in rehearsal and you're like, I'm just maxed out, like I'm too annoyed, it happens, right? Or there's something else on your mind, just go to the beach in your imagination. This is, again, imagery. Literally, go to the beach for a couple minutes, close your eyes. I do not mind that. I've done that myself in rehearsal because I get like a lot of external stimuli, like overload sometimes in rehearsal when I'm singing, because singing's, quite involved, right? Like, it's athletic, vocal athletics, what you're doing. So, close your eyes, take some deep breaths. Just like, yeah, again, we're not an island. We don't have to be on 100% of the time. Like, take your time, let your section carry it for a minute. Just take care of yourself, because you'll be surprised. Sometimes you'll start listening instead of singing, and it actually helps too, because you're starting to listen more to your section, and that helps you learn, and that helps them kind of learn, oh, she's not singing. Oh, that's what it's like when she's singing. So again, there's some really good benefits from just taking a little break. And I always say listen more too, just listen when you're in rehearsal. It can be easy to focus on your singing, but it's really helpful to listen to other parts and see how you all blend together. Breathe more too, just keep breathing, all those nice deep breaths we work on, especially when the music is hard. Those are the moments that the breath really, really helps get you through. And my conductor friend in college, he used to say, all you need to do is breathe, sit up straight, and listen. Like, those are the 3 things basically to do in every rehearsal. I think as a singer or conductor, like, breathe, stand up straight, and listen, like in your you're in good place. Again, if you just need to get back to basics, those are some really nice things that you can do. And be funny. Be funny if you can be, because humor always helps every rehearsal that I've ever been in. Just be funny. Just laugh about it. It's good. And then for performance, again, enjoy your singing. This is my biggest tip, because if you enjoy it, we will have more fun and enjoy it too. It's really easy to be self-critical of ourselves as singers. And I want to tell my Simon Carrington story because you mentioned his name. So this is, again, I feel for you all. How many of you all have ever worried about singing flat in choir? Yeah, so this is my first rehearsal with Simon Carrington over in Italy, right? And I'm singing soprano, and he was fishing for an alto. So in my defense, he might have been kind of this way anyways, but he pointed me out in rehearsal, said, "Oh, you're under pitch there." What? This like famous conductor, you know, pointing out my pitch issue, right? All these fancy degrees, all this experience, singing up. I mean, it doesn't matter, right? Because sometimes jet lag, right? I was jet lagged. It was the wrong time of day for me to be singing. I should have been asleep. So again, we're just such sensitive instruments as singers. And so I bring up that story to encourage you, because people are not always kind about, you know, singers and instruments. You know, you're flat, you know. And he asked, "Oh, you should sing alto," or something like that, you know. He doesn't know me. He doesn't know my voice. I was just jet lagged. And I always talk about Natalie Dessay too. Anybody heard of Natalie Dessay, famous opera singer? So I heard Natalie Dessay sing one time in Santa Fe when I was out there doing the Desert Chorale, and she was premiering as Violetta in Traviata, her very first Violetta. She'd never sung it before, and she has to sing it in Santa Fe. And has anybody ever been to Santa Fe and knows the altitude thing up there? Yeah, literally there are oxygen bars where you can go to get more oxygen, because when you get out there, it's harder to breathe, literally. And she completely blew her high note at the end of her. I mean, it was not even close. And I know this, I know her voice, I know how but again, like, we're just so fragile. But I hope she enjoyed her performance, because again, every critic is going to go after that one note, right? And that one thing that is not perfect. But she got to sing Violetta, right? And again, I got to sing in Italy with Simon Carrington. So at the end of the day, if it's not perfect, it should still be fun, and you should still enjoy it, because nobody's perfect at any level of this. And so that's my tip for performance. It doesn't matter how it goes at all. If you enjoy it, it's successful. And connect with as many people as you can when you're on stage. You know, again, depending on how comfortable you are with the music. But if you know the music really well, maybe you're connecting more with the audience, or with your conductor or your neighbor, you know, getting into certain places. You know, the connection that you can make with people when you're performing is really, really special. And I always recommend dedicating your performance to somebody if that feels right to you too. That's a nice way to make it feel really personal. And you can dedicate it to yourself too, honestly, because you're the one that put in all the work. So that's kind of a fun way, again, to make it a positive experience, whether or not the music goes well, because some of that's out of your control, especially if you're jet lagged. And it's funny because I was able to learn from that experience when I went over to Greece to sing, because I had a big role to do in Greece, the Countess in the Marriage of Figaro. I gave myself a whole week over there to get on the right time zone before I sang a note. And my husband came too. We had a vacation. That was kind of cool. But anyways, I just share again because the learning experiences are really profound that you can have as a professional singer. That was a big one for me. Last tips for performance, I know we're getting kind of into here, are to be on time or early. Why? Because again, it just gives you some more chance to like ground yourself and really be there in the space. And again, I always think of this, if you can be, as a part of being a good colleague and a good community member, is to be there, you know, as early as you can be, as on time as you can be. I've shown up late to things, full disclosure, right? It happens, but in general, if you can plan to be there early or on time, it really helps. And think about what you're doing before, after the concert. Do you want to be with people and celebrate? That can be fun. Maybe the concert experience is overwhelming for you though, and you just need to like process it on your own. That can be just as valid and fun, honestly, too. So whatever keeps you thinking positively about performing is what we're going for here. So keep thinking creatively about what you want your performance before and after to look like. It really can enhance it. And I always say, just do it just how you did it in rehearsal. This is not the time to try anything fancy and new. Just do it how you do in rehearsal. Every once in a while you'll get like a peak performance where like everything just works really well. But I learned this from actually a sports psychologist. He used to work with Olympic athletes, and then he worked on the faculty of Juilliard. And he used to talk about that. He's like, you can't practice the peak. All you can practice is optimal performing. So just how you did it in rehearsal is the thing to always strive for. It's so true in my experience. So yeah, those are my tips.
Yeah, practice the peak. I'll be remembering that. Yeah, that's so smart, but you can set yourself up for it, right? But you can't
Exactly.
practice it. You're talking about going to the beach. I just have to say that David Hillary and Ruth Kirshner, like both at the beach already, friends. You are giving us solid beach vibes. Well done. I appreciate that, especially with the snow coming. I want to read a couple of questions quickly and quick answers to all of these. Michael B says, I find that from day to day, my voice is different. Exactly what you're talking about, Heather. Allergies have something to do with it, maybe age too. How do you obtain that consistency so you can rely on it when performing? It's exactly what you were just talking about, right? You can't plan for exactly how things are going to be. You can just consistently rehearse, and so that you're ready to do the very best you can.
Yeah, I completely understand too. It's a great question about the consistency of the voice too. My biggest tip, honestly, is hydration. I know we've heard it over and over again, yeah, but hydration can mean a lot of things too if you're struggling with allergies. I like coconut water. I know that's kind of an out there one, but I've heard it's better to hydrate than regular water. You can dilute it too if you don't like the taste of it. Anything with electrolytes is really helpful too, just to keep the body in really optimal form. So those would be my two, again, hacks, if I had to say hacks. And I'm really into gargling too, just to get the mucus out of there. If there's any mucus that comes, neti pots are a thing, if you've heard of a neti pot, to do some nasal irrigation. Not everybody can handle that though, but nasal sprays, anything that works for you. Anything that works for you allergy-wise, to talk to your doctor. I do not like, espouse being a doctor at all here. That's not my thing. But talk to your doctor a lot about, say, I'm singing more and I just really want to manage my allergies. What do you recommend? But I would say the biggest thing to give me consistency over time is hydration. If I stay hydrated, it makes a huge difference. And that means not a lot of caffeine for me too. The caffeine thing, we all love our coffees and teas, right? And our chocolates and all those things, but those are not so helpful for the consistency that you're looking for the voice. So, but good luck with it, because we all have our own little journey with that too. And that's an important part of the singer's journey. Hope that helps.
Okay, that's one I'm going to take with me as well. Coconut water to hydrate. Cold, really, really ice cold coconut water. Delicious. Peter is asking, how important is it to memorize the music rather than holding up the music in front of you? Great question, Peter. All right, Heather, the 64,000
Yeah.
question.
So it depends a little bit. I think it's good. It's okay to have it there to refer to, but I always say try not to get buried in it, right? That's the difference, right? If you need it for every single word, right, that's probably not going to lead to your optimal performance, right? So if there's like, you can memorize the chorus, right, and only look for the verses or something like that, maybe that's a little bit more kind of towards your goals. I mean, make your own goals, I would say too, and play with that yourself, because I think it's different for every person, like what their comfort level is. I do like memorizing things. It frees me up as a performer for sure to do that, but it's not realistic. Again, do what's realistic, for you and some of our longer repertoire and things like that, do what's realistic. And yeah, like I said, maybe there's a section of it you can memorize and that feels like progress to you. That would be a recommendation.
Yep. Someone else is asking, does it matter whether you're standing or sitting when you sing?
Not too much. I think you can do really good singing either way. I think the most important thing is the height that you can get in the body and the alignment you can get here in the spine. So if you're seated, yeah, I think it's great. I do think sometimes it can help to stand for high notes for me personally. If you have, some big high notes, it really helps to get the full feeling of the body underneath it. But I don't think it's 100% necessary, because again, we all have limitations to that too. I heard, oh my gosh, her name's Sharon Sweet. She was one of the big divas at the Met. She sat for a whole concert of art song. I would listen to her and sing the Verdi Requiem solos. I would listen to her do that. She just sat the whole time. There's no reason that you can't do your most beautiful singing seated.
I love that. I heard somebody recently say, stand from the waist up.
That's
You can
super.
be seated, but stand from the waist up. Yeah, I thought that was brilliant. Francie says, critics cry when there's nothing to criticize. Boo hoo.
Yeah.
Yes, and David, you're saying Beach Boys this semester. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You are all set for the Beach Boys. So this one is, do you have any suggestions on how to integrate new singers to an existing choral group? Oh, I have thoughts about this too. So Heather, I'm curious what you have to say.
Oh yeah, I can't wait to hear yours too, Catherine. So this is again, it's really individual. Some singers come in, they have a lot of experience, they're ready to go, and some come in and you can just tell they're scared and intimidated, and it's just not a great experience for them just being new in the group. So it really depends on the singer, and there can be a lot of things you can do just to, have them introduce themselves or have someone else introduce them, put them next to somebody that's really secure in the part. Have them, just listen a little bit the first rehearsal, not to have the pressure even of singing that much. Hey, just, listen a little bit when you're comfortable, join in, and definitely try to have a post-mortem with them too, like as the conductor, hey, how did it go, or maybe, again, you partner them up with somebody else in the group, like, hey, like, check in with this person, let them know how things went for you, because I think, again, my coordinators are so good at doing that. I notice in a lot of my groups too, they'll be like, oh yeah, she's struggling a little bit, or oh, I think she got it this week, she's kind of happier in the alto section, or whatever it may be. Again, I think that's where the community spirit really pays off if that's in the group, because I think the community will then want that person to succeed, and I think that that's ultimately what will help that person feel comfortable in that group, is the group wanting them to be there and succeed. So I think that's pretty, I hope that makes sense. It's pretty key.
That's it for me, exactly. We talk about State Farm moments in our rehearsals, where, like a good neighbor, you can help your neighbor. And I find that if you can, as new singers come in, everybody likes a buddy, right? Give a new singer a buddy, and then help them feel as comfortable as possible. Because sooner or later, we're all going to be new somewhere, right? And we would like to have a buddy too. And as much as there are sort of in jokes like how blue is my shoe, and ways that everybody in the group knows this, those are things that are delightful to share, right? So that we can really make new people feel as welcome as possible. But yeah, mine is literally just State Farm it. And I will sometimes stop in rehearsal and say, here's your State Farm moment. Everybody check in with your neighbor, see if they need help. If you are needing help, please just, blink quickly at your neighbor so that they know to help you out. But interestingly, I find that when we get in a habit of neighbors helping neighbors in rehearsal, the whole rehearsal goes better. Exactly what you're saying, Heather. Instead of just looking out for ourselves and hoping that we're doing okay, we are really collectively working together to make it the best experience possible. I love that. Debbie wrote, Bill and Debbie are at the literal beach in St. Thomas. My friends, we are all jealous of you. I am just going to guess, Debbie and Bill, that you are not planning to get snow this weekend, huh? All right. How many guest bedrooms do you have down there? Oh, two. Okay. Heather, one for you and one for me, and then everybody else can
Sounds good, Catherine. Sounds great. I'm there.
Absolutely. Beth says, yes, on coconut water. It has more electrolytes than Gatorade. I don't even think I knew that. I have some in my fridge. I predict warm up for Tuesday will be, oh, what a cold, icy day. I can hear it in my head. Oh, what a cold, icy day. And it will affect the voice.
Do a little shiver with it, right? As you move around. Yep.
Warm up shiver. I love it. Friends, we have about 15 minutes left. And Heather had some exercises. Yeah, that you had some exercises that you were interested in doing with us?
Yeah, I would love to just walk you through a few things. Again, these are all in the spirit of kind of helping you on your journey as a singer today. So I'm just going to share my screen with you, and we're going to take a look at this first document here, which says, can you all see my screen now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, so this is the role of the singer in the 21st century, and I I think we can all agree it can be a multifaceted experience, right? Singing here in the 21st century. And some of the roles that came to mind for me, I listed here, obviously being a musician, a vocalist, an actor, an artist, an entrepreneur. You might not think of yourself as that way, but Encore has a very entrepreneurial bent to it. And so your being a part of this is very much in line with that. A historian, as you learn about the history of the music, an advocate, a conductor. You'd be surprised, some of you out there can conduct, I've seen it. Teacher, a collaborator, a producer. Again, some of you help produce our concerts with various ways you get involved. And I love this one, healer, because you don't know, but you're often healing people who don't know they're being healed when they hear music. So that's kind of cool. And I wondered if there were any other roles that you wanted to share you could think of. You could maybe raise your hand, and Catherine could call on you, if you don't mind, Catherine.
Absolutely.
Any other roles you could think of? Or you can put them in the chat, I suppose,
I was
too.
gonna say maybe putting them in the chat is easier. Yeah, unifier.
I like that one.
Francine says friend.
Give you a friend. I love that.
Oh, storyteller.
Beautiful.
Oh, yeah, Peter says dancer. Yeah, see? Like we were talking about earlier, right? You guys are brilliant. Joan says supporter. Yes, Joan. Yes, so much. Roles of the singer in the 21st century. I just love that so much.
So if you have other
emotional releaser.
Oh, I love that. Emotional
Yes,
releaser.
yes.
Again, back to this idea of like, again, you're kind of like healing and doing things that you don't know that you're doing when you sing. It's very, very powerful. If you have other ones, please share them as we go through the other exercises here. But I wanted to take us into a little exercise now. Let me see if I can find this one. Give me just a second to find it.
I love all of the composers behind you.
Oops, it's in the wrong place. Sorry. I didn't have this one up here. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's for my project. Let's see. Singer.
Comforter, supporter, peacemaker, activist, inspirer. We have geniuses at Encore. And also warm and caring. Every single thing that you've said is community forward. I love it.
Thank you, Catherine. Will I find this exercise? What is this called? Oh, philosophy exercise. Values. No. The next exercise I like to do is a values. Here it is, checklist. So here are some values. This comes from a book called The 21st Century Singer, by the way, continuing our idea of singing in the 21st century. And what I want you to do is take a pencil or write on your phone, and these are values. Anybody might possess values, right? So I just want you to take a minute and read through the values here and pick your top 10 out of this list. I'll give you a couple minutes to do that. Pick your top 10 values. Here's the book it comes from, if anybody's interested. 21st Century Singer. Again, don't worry about perfection here. Just pick the first top 10 that come to you. You can always go back and change your mind here too. I'll give us another minute or so. So as you're kind of circling in on your top 10, after you are kind of wrapping that up, see if you can narrow it down to your top 5 from that list. So try to eliminate 5 and keep only your 5 top values from this list. And also there are places for your own values at the bottom here. If you noticed, you don't have to use one that's on here. There's something else that you value. So I did this exercise a while ago, but I'll just share mine, what I came up with, my top 10 and then my top 5. I wish we had time for other people to share too. But again, share at home if you've got somebody to share with. This can be a very interesting exercise. Share with your spouse or something. So my top 10 were wisdom, solving challenging problems, quality relationships, public service, nature, integrity, human rights, helping others or empowering others, growth and creativity, and adventure. I had 11, so see, I didn't do it perfectly either. I had to have 11. And then my top 5 were wisdom, human rights, integrity, quality relationships, and public service. So once you have your top 5, and there's no judgment because every human is different, right? Which is why I love this exercise. Your top 5, you can create a little philosophy statement for yourself and relate it to your music making or your singing. For an example, you could make a philosophy that says, my music encompasses both truth and beauty, and I use it to inspire others. So if those are your values, you can craft a little statement for yourself there. So I crafted mine-ish. I'm not sure I ever workshopped it perfectly, but a life of service to the public with great respect for human rights, living with integrity, wisdom, and cultivating quality relationships will help me give back what I've been given as a singer and musician. So that was something that really helped me when I was thinking about career and how to incorporate my value system into my singing. And it's really led me on some interesting places, including Encore Creativity for Older Adults. So take a minute and just workshop that for yourself. Look at your values, see how they might relate to a philosophy. Another example I think I workshopped here, you could talk about would be, my singing reflects my top 5 values in this way. So if that's a little easier to just, use as a prompt, or my reasons for singing and values are the same in these ways. Maybe they're different. Interesting. It could be different too. People benefit from my singing because of these underlying values, etc. So there's lots of ways to think about this philosophy statement for yourself. And you might enjoy, spending some more time doing that. I hope it's okay. Can I stop sharing now? Everybody that far? Yeah. Let me know if anybody wants me to keep it up. I think we're kind of at that point there. Great. So I would love to hear from any of you anytime if you want to share your philosophy with me, either in my own group or with your own conductor. I think it's fascinating to have a philosophy of why we sing and why we do what we do, especially at those moments where we're really self-critical of ourselves. So keep this statement around. It'll help you remember why you do what you do as a singer. And I've got one more exercise. Do we have time, Catherine?
We have about 5 minutes.
Okay, let's do 5 minutes then of sensory work. So this is what I was talking about earlier, something you can add to your practice session. So the 5-minute version here, we're going to do a really easy one. It says these initial exercises are very easy, and they're going to help you judge your own sensory ability at this moment. So try these exercises using all your senses, focusing on one sense at a time. So close your eyes and get yourself relaxed and quiet before you begin. If you have any problems relaxing, some of the following images may help, or you can invent your own. Ice melting, water flowing easily, gently over the stones in a clear brook. Harsh lights changing to soft hues of peach or apricot. The warmth of the sunlight coming in your window. Rocking in a hammock. Lying under a tree in dappled sunlight on a wonderfully warm day. Our first sense will be sight. So sitting comfortably, keep your eyes closed and allow yourself to imagine a famous performer. the bright orange sunset over the ocean, a bright yellow circle. See it in full bright color, then watch the circle change its color to black. Keep an eye on the circle and change its shape to square. Allow this black square to become a long black line that disappears into the distance. Make the line come back to you and watch it change into a wonderful green triangle. And that's the end of sight. So you can ask yourself, how vivid were the images for you? How clearly could you hold on to these shapes, these bright colors, before they faded? So we're going to let go of sight just for now, and we're going to go on to sound as our next sense. Relax and allow your mind to imagine the following sounds. The silence of a thick fog, a wall of gray mist. Church bells ringing in the distance. The voice of your favorite singer. The wind whistling in the trees. A telephone ringing. A dog barking quite close to you. Allow the dog to move away from you, but still hear it barking in the distance. Now create your own sounds, for example, the ocean, your favorite piece of music, a child's laughter, etc. And now we'll let go of sound, and we'll work on the next sense, which is touch. Relax and imagine you're not able to see or hear. Touching and feeling are all you can do. Allow yourself to feel the following things. The warmth of the sun on your face. The softness of silk next to your skin. The deep textured bark of a tree trunk under your hands. The richness of deep velvet. Warm, coarse sand. Bend down, pick it up, and allow it to run through your fingers. Now we'll let go of touch, and we'll move on to taste, which is our fourth sense, and my favorite one. Relax. Close down all of your senses except taste. Imagine the following tastes. The sharp, sour, tart taste of a lemon. The sweet taste of something you like, such as sugar or chocolate or honey. The burning sensation in your mouth caused by a hot chili dish, and the cooling down of your tongue by ice cream. The juicy, sweet taste of a piece of your favorite fresh fruit. Imagine all your favorite tastes. Eat part of your favorite meal. Enjoy the taste, the texture, and the luxurious, satisfying feeling of good food. Unfortunately, we have not a lot of time for that, but do that as much as you like at your own pace. We're going to do the last sense and then wrap up. The last sense is smell. If you knew that already, good job. Relax, and using only your sense of smell, imagine the following. Wood burning in the countryside. Roast turkey cooking in the kitchen. Freshly baked bread. Newly painted woodwork. Your favorite perfume. Enter the world of smell, exploring all your favorite and not so favorite smells from your life. Go back to your childhood and explore the smells that remind you of happy moments. Having done all of these exercises, you'll be in the position to evaluate how well you did with each sense. And you will discover some senses are easier to find than others. And that's really interesting. That's so individual to all of our experience, right? Sometimes it's hard to hold on to two senses at once, like the dappled sunlight and the warmth. So it's really great to know which sense was the stronger one for you. You should write it down, I think, and know it can really help you in your practice, because any form of imagery work like this can supplement your physical practice of a new vocal skill. It can improve it and increase your learning speed and aid your consistency, as we were talking about before, that consistency. Because all of this imagery work enhances your performance, if only by developing more self-confidence and being able to feel these things. And when you're sick or get an injury, something you're suffering through a bad cold, you can still practice by using imagery. You can imagine how you want your music to sound and feel using all of your senses, because your nervous system doesn't know the difference from actual physical singing and imagery, imagining you're singing. So there's some other ways to use this too, but we are almost out of time. So I hope you enjoyed that little exercise. That comes from Power of Performance for Singers, which is another great book and resource I've loved.
Heather, this has been wonderful this evening. I feel like the cup of tea in my hands and the chance just to chat and hear your wisdom as a musician and also as a thinker. Um, I feel like I'm taking away practical tips as well as I feel like I know you a little bit better in just some wonderful ways. Thank you so much for joining us this evening, for sharing with us so honestly and with so much wisdom. Um, I want to give you just, can we just give Heather a big round of applause on
Thank you.
Zoom? Thank you so, so much. Marianne, do you want to close us out this evening?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Heather, and thank you, Catherine, for this wonderful discussion. I think it's a wonderful chance for us to get to know conductors that we don't get to work with week in and week out. And, you know, occasionally we might have you in front of us for a moment at a Kennedy Center performance or at a larger performance, but to really spend time and get to know all of the different backgrounds and experiences that you've had. So thank you so much for sharing with us this evening. It's been wonderful. And thank you to all of you for joining us this evening. And give us a few days to tighten up the recording, and then we will send it out via email to you if you want to come back and revisit, if you want to see that list again of values, or you want to go through some of those exercises again. You can do that at your leisure. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you again to AARP for their wonderful sponsorships of these masterclasses so that we have the opportunity to share with each other. Have a wonderful evening. Stay safe wherever you are, in whatever weather you are having. We'll all imagine ourselves with Bill and Debbie down in in the islands. And we hope to see you again very, very soon. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Good
Thank
night.
you. Good night.